My name is Janneke Nijboer. I'm a minister of the Protestant Church in the Netherlands. And I have a special assignment to start fresh expressions of church. And I do this on the internet for mijnkerk.nl. And that's an interactive website, and we're on the social media as well. And I have I started a fresh expression of church in Noordwijk. That's a little town on the coast of the Netherlands. And I'll try to find out with a group new ways of being church and sharing religion and belief. So in short, that's my who I am. And as an ambassador of the Female Wave of Change, we thought about the core value of empathy. And that is in our that is one of our core values. But in the year of 2013, I met Karen Armstrong, and she lectured on compassion. And I think it's worth sharing her story, and maybe we can better adapt the word compassion than empathy as our core value. So that is what we're going to do tonight. And well, here she is. This is Karen Armstrong. She was born in 1944, and she was a former religious sister. And she moved in her beliefs from conservative Catholic to more liberal and mystical. And she is an historian on religions and worldwide respected. She initiated the Charter for Compassion. Well, in the year of 2007, she had a TED Talk, and she won a prize, and then she wrote with others the Charter for Compassion. And I will start a little film in which we can hear this charter, and it's really interesting, and that's where my lecture will be built on. So listen and enjoy.
There's no sound, Janneke.
There's no sound. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. So I can hear it. So, and my sound is on the utmost. So what shall we do? You can't hear it, Ingen?
Yeah.
No, I hear. Okay, then what I will do later on, I will send us a link, and I will tell about it. So that's better, because I think when I can't make this better. So is that the best thing to do, Ingen? Sorry, you are muted now, Ingen. Okay. Well, in this film of the Charter of Compassion, the text is explained what it's all about. And after writing this Charter of Compassion and starting the movement, Charter for Compassion, Karen Armstrong wrote this book, The 12 Steps Towards a Compassionate Life. And it's a funny title, because she lent it from the Alcoholic Anonymous, because they have this 12-step program. And she said, this is my 12-step program to get people off being selfish and starting a new life, starting a more compassionate life with others. So that's where the title of her book is about. And at first she said the first step is to learn about compassion, and the conclusion is that in all kinds of religions, the golden rule is the most important rule that you should live by. And this golden rule is do to the other, or yes, do to the other. Oh, someone is having her, sorry. I hear some voices. Okay, yes. Excuse me, but why I was a bit distracted. Well, the golden rule is treat the other as you would like to have been treated yourself. And so she dives into all these religions because she thinks if you want to make a change in the world, you need stories, myths that will inspire you and motivate you to embrace this change. And that is what she will do throughout the book, and I will give you some examples of it. And compassion, she says, is a fruit of the new brain. First, when the evolution started, we all had this reptile brain because we had to survive on Earth. And the reptile brain we are led by four drives, four motives, and that drives us. It's fighting, it's fleeing, it's feeding because we have to eat, and being reproductive. So the other F I don't want to call. So 4 Fs: being reproductive because we want to live longer than our own lives, feeding because we have to eat, flying, and fighting. And later on, when the Homo sapiens came, this reptile brain is still in our heads and is always in front. But the Homo sapiens learned get this new brain, and that is the place where we can reflect on our daily lives, and we don't have to react on every natural impulse. So she states that religions are there because we want to overcome this reptile brain impulses. Well, sometimes it's good to have this reptile brain because when there was a big fire, you have to flee. And when you're really in a danger, you have to fight. But most of the time, it's you better live by the neocortex brain and be more reflective. And the Buddha, that's the first story she gives us. Buddha learns us how to be more compassionate. And he says you can do a kind of yoga. Yoga means a way, following a way. And you have to evoke the 4 immeasurable minds of love. So first, there is Maitri. You have to focus on Maitri. That is loving kindness for yourself and others. The second step to yoga is Karuna, and that means compassion. And the third step is joy, feeling joy about yourself and others. And the fourth step is even-mindedness. So you're not self-centered anymore, but just focused on the others. So that's a crucial insight to do this and to expand your ability to have compassion. And while Buddha focuses more on the psychology of compassion, Confucius, he was a Chinese thinker and philosopher, focuses more on social and political implications of compassion. And he was the first one found to phrase the golden rule. So let's say in the year of the 6th century before Christ, before the Common Era, Confucius stated the golden rule. And so that's beautiful insight. And when we look at the big monotheistic religions, we also see this golden rule appearing in the texts. Well, so, as well as in Judaism, Christianity, but also in the Quran. In the Quran of the Islam, the Quran is made because and wants to motivate the Arabic people to overcome the tribe mind. They lived in tribes, but they had to learn how to connect to others. So you have to overcome, and this is a Arabic word, jahaliya, the tribe mind, and that meant aggression. And you should surrender yourself. That is what Islam means, surrender. You should surrender yourself with your entire being to Allah Ar-Rahman. This is the compassionate God, and Allah Ar-Rahim. He is the merciful God. So, compassion requires us to open our hearts and minds to all others. That is what the golden rule is about, and in every religion we see this golden rule appearing. So it's good to realize that you don't stand alone in your own tradition. And Karen gives with every step a good advice, and she says, well, maybe you are a part of a religious tradition, then go and dive into those myths, those stories, and maybe you'll find a good story that will motivate you to a more compassionate life. But even if you're not a religious person, you can dive into a philosophy or a philosopher and find their stories that will motivate you, inspire you, because we need those myths. Well, we're going to the second step now. And Confucius, who was like a coach for statesmen, he talks about there are concentric circles of compassion. You have yourself, and around you, you have your family, and then your community, your workspace, your nation, and the world. And he says it's good to look around and ask again and again, is there compassion in my family life? And how do I serve the other? How do I treat the other? And how do they treat me? And then you explore in your family, but you also explore it in your work life, on the workplace. How are the relationships over there? How do we treat each other? And you reflect on it. Maybe you're a member of a church or whatever. You can also reflect on it over there or in that space. And you expand your view and you look at the world. This is just a step of reflection. Then, the third step, it's compassion for yourself. And Karen starts this chapter with a beautiful story. Once she met a rabbi. It was Albert Friedlander. And he was a child while the Nazis, I have to look out where it stands. Sorry. Yes. Rabbi Albert Friedlander, she met him, and he was 8 years when the Nazis were in charge in Europe. And he was troubled by that and distressed. And he found one night he was getting bewildered by all these ideas, and he thought, well, I'm not the way they describe me. And one night he woke up and he put on a note all the good qualities he had and all the good deeds he had done. And then he said, I'm different from what the Nazis tells me who I am. And these good qualities, I will act them out after the war, and I will put my talents and special gifts to create a better world when I can. So this is a rather extraordinary insight for a child in such circumstances. But I think it shows very good what it is and what it takes to love yourself and how it works. So she asked us to have a good look at ourselves and make this list for ourselves. What are your qualities? What did you do for good deeds? What is lovely about you? And then when you dive deeper, you also will see what your more shadow sides will be. And it's good to have a look at that, at your weaknesses as well. But she says, have humor when you look at yourself and smile over it with a sense of humor in the same way you will tease a friend. So, and remember, she says, we always dislike people on qualities we have ourselves and dislike on ourselves the most. Well, and then she tells us that Buddhism, for instance, learns us that when we feel our own pain, that our own pain will lead us to karuna, that's compassion. So it's really good to have this vivid insight of what is your pain and what causes it, because this will bond us together with other people. Yes, even the Greek did find this, and they had this theater and this tragic plays. And this was to cause people to cry and to cry together, because it was crying about the human condition, and that was bonding, that was good, that was feeling connected to each other. Oh. Here you see a nice picture of the Buddha, and it's the beginning of a story about empathy. And I said, I made a note, leave the palace, because when Buddha was born, he had a father, and his father said, oh, I don't want my boy to know what the world is about. And he was imprisoned in the palace. And when he was 29, the gods say, well, now it's enough. You should break out of this palace, and you should know what life is about. And they came to Buddha, and one of the gods was dressed up or disguised as a sick man, and the other one was an old man, and the other one was just a corpse, and the third was a monk. And that was the first time the story said that the Buddha encountered something of the pain and the harshness of life. And seeing that, he was so full of sorrow that he left the palace and wanted to give his life to embrace this pain. And he said, life is about dukkha. It's about pain, it's about suffering. And suffering is all over the place, it's all over the world. So, and we can't hide for it. That's what the story tells us. In the world, when we open our vision and we're just standing, we will see that this everywhere we look at, this pain, this suffering of people. And then we will connect to this pain. In Christianity, we have Christ on the cross, and that's an emblem of the cruelty that human beings can inflict. And that's also telling us life is suffering, about suffering. And in a way, it's all, we are told to get into action because of that, and get a compassionate life. So it makes us unrestly. Now, Karen Armstrong tells us again to do some meditation and meditate and think about these concentric circles again. And we have to meditate on compassion to yourselves, to a friend or a family member, and you have to be precise on whom you focus. And you have to focus this on a colleague, on someone in the community, and on someone you really dislike. And then you name all the good things that they are and they do. And you dive into their hearts and see their sufferings. And you are patient with yourself. And doing so, she hopes this will help us to think about others the way we think about ourselves. So, empathy is not just a thing, it is hard work. The next step is being mindful. Mindful is also, she recommends, learn about how the brain works, how it works with the reptile brain taking over again, over and over again. And try to meditate, just sit down, and then you will get a sense of it, how it works, this reptile brain. For instance, this afternoon, I sat for just a short time, just still, and first thing I thought, well, I want something to drink. Later on, I thought, well, I want something to eat. But I still sat still. And then my husband came into mind, and I thought, well, I would like a kiss. And then later on, I thought, oh, well, this colleague, I don't like him. How must I behave? And before it was still, I was really at rest, it cost us so much time. I have to, to get to work again. So this is this being mindful and train yourself, hearing and noticing about what's going on in your head is really a good exercise. And she says you should do it again and again and again, of course, because otherwise it will not work. And she hopes that when you do this and you get to know yourself better, you can reflect while you're in action. So you can stop your actions or just helicopter above and see what you're doing. And then you can decide, how I'm going to react. Am I going to do this or say this? And maybe that will help you to become more compassionate. In the midst of the 12 steps, she calls us out for action. And she does it really at ease. She said, she has 4 assignments for us. And she said, every day, do once a day the golden rule in a positive version. So treat others how you would like to be treated. Do it just once. And the second assignment is act out once a day the golden rule in the negative version. Then you do not to others what you would like not to do to you. And the third one is make an effort to change your thought patterns. And the fourth thing she says, check every day on a quiet moment if you did this. And if you maybe do this daily, once, well, then you can try to do it twice. And this will become a way of life, hopefully. Because we're all hopeful. And she is, and the big fingers are too. We're going to this beautiful picture, but I'm not going to talk about this picture by step 7. It will come later on. Step 7 is that we should realize how little we know. And it's to understand that somebody who is different than me, if I want to understand this person, I need to broaden my perspective and create a place for the other. And Armstrong learned this lesson in one of her study books on her way becoming a historian on religions. What we at first find strange and incomprehensible, we should explore so deep and not judge until we finally can connect and understand. That is what wisdom is about. Wisdom is not the accumulation of information and reaching hard and fast conclusions, but it's understanding finally that you know nothing at all. So says Socrates. Well, we can learn something from Socrates. And all other sages, wise men and women, will also learn this same thing. And that is what is the science of compassion is about. It's this discipline of emptying the mind of culturally conditioned preconceptions in order to make place for the other. So that's a key word, make place for the other and make your minds empty. And because our views of the others is perpetually clouded by our own prejudice, opinions, needs, and desires. And when we listen to them first, we will neither understand nor truly respect the others. So it's good when you, how can you reach this not knowing anybody or yourself? She says, reflect on this and think, for instance, about yourself. What makes you a really other person than another person? And when you, I think, dive deep into it, it's really, we can't say it. What makes me, me? What is it exactly? This is how you can also try to understand another person. And there is this, I think, this sacred ground on which every person stands, which you can't enter. It's like Moses, when he was in the burning tree, and that was the place where God was, and he couldn't enter this place. He couldn't enter this holiness. And I think everybody has this kind of holiness we can't and may not enter, because then we pluck out the heart of the mystery of every person. So, well, when we have found out that we can't really understand people because there is something mysterious about everybody, we take this into account when we are going to speak to one another. So I realize that the other is really an other, and the true mystery I can't know. So I'm with step 8 now. And step 8, she starts by exploring what is understanding. When you want to understand a text and you just have one sentence, you can't really understand this sentence because you have to know about the context. Then you can put the sentence in perspective. And when we see people act, we there are people we don't understand at all, and we don't understand their actions at all. And then we are trying, this is a human thing, we want to be willing to understand it. We try to understand it. So that's also, somebody calls this the principle of charity. It's the willingness, the human willingness to understand. And so that's that you need the whole context. And this is the starting point if you are going to speak to another person or and try to understand. I will come to this point later on. Step 9 is the concern for everybody. And I will start with a surah of the Quran. And it says, "Behold, we have created you all out of male and female, and have formed you into tribes and nations, so that you may get to know one another." So it's God's will that pluralism and diversity is there. So that is in the Quran. It's good to know this. And that's why I chose this picture of the Tower of Babel. It's a story from the Bible. And the story goes like this. People wanted to had just one language, and they want to be as powerful as God. So they want to live together, and they built this high tower so they would reach the place where God dwells. But then God destroys the tower, and he made all these languages. So the people had to be divided over the world and had to be different, because that's the reason. That's how it works on Earth. It's not about one language. It's not about one sort, one kind of people, but it's about diversity and pluralism. And that's really important to understand. And I was glad to hear this from the Amsterdam head of police. Amsterdam is a big city, is our capital of the Netherlands, and they have 180 nationalities. And this head of police said, "I don't want to talk anymore about that there is a multicultural society, and if it is and it doesn't work." He said, "No, we are living in diversity, and that's our starting point to serve people of our city, and that's why we will try to become more diverse in color, belief, sexual orientation, and gender." So it's really on the agenda of the police now, and I think it's a good thing. And diving into the Bible, yes? What is it, Ina? Sorry, can you unmute your microphone? Because
yes. 5 more minutes. Then
5 more minutes. Okay. Well, yes. Okay, I will do that. We now know the religion, so it's about diversity and pluralism, and we should realize that if we want to be aware of this, and if we want a compassionate life, we should be aware that it's about the whole world. Step 10 is knowledge. When we are about to criticize another nation or religion, we should get into the habit of catching ourselves and asking whether our own country or religion may have been responsible for similar abuse in the past. That is the first step. So we should expand our knowledge about history and about the case, what's going on. So that's really important. Well, step 11 is about recognition. As compassion grows, imagination grows. And we need this imagination because we should, and it's more about empathy. It's a bit like the same thing. But we must be willing to leave our egocentric self and be more empathetic and connect to others. And the last step, it's the most difficult one, I think. It's love your enemies. And Martin Luther King Jr. stated, darkness cannot, cannot be overcome by darkness. Only light can do. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. So it's really a difficult step. And compassion is just not simply a matter of sentiment or emotional tenderness. It's really hard work. It's when we say you have to love your neighbor, it's a legal term. It's used in Leviticus first, and it means helping the other, supporting the other. And we should meditate on friendship and compassion, sympathetic joy to yourselves, to someone you like, to someone you dislike. And then you bring into mind the last step, your enemy. And the enemy with a capital E. And it may be a state, a religious tradition, a nation. It can be people as well. And first you have to realize all your feelings of disgust and even hate and anger. And you have to take notice of your reluctance to turn this enemy into a friend. And so that is really a big step to do. And we should realize that our hatred can become a part of our identity. So the enemy gets into us and become one with us. So that's maybe a good reason to try your best to turn the enemy into a friend. But this may last a lifelong, and that doesn't matter. It matters that you do and try. So my last word is that compassion is hard work and a lifelong project. And it's not just reached by doing these 12 steps, but it's by living and living again and connect with other people. Well, my last final thing is this one, is this photograph. And it's about standing in one's other's shoe. And we see a man and he's trying on pumps. So I think that's what empathy is about. It's trying on other one's shoes and standing in their shoes and try to imagine what it is to live in an unjust system, to feel suffering and pain, to be sick, to have agony, to have hunger, to have thirsty. As we are the female wave of change, as I understand this, we want to become a network of women of all ranges or of lives, nations, color, gender, and sexual preferences. And embracing diversity is that what we send out. And we need each other to build a world which is a good dwelling place for everybody. So we need empathy, and we should try to become, learn to become, and have a compassionate life. That's my story for tonight, ladies.
Wow, thank you. You can stop share your screen now so that we can get everyone.
Yes.
Yes. Share here. Okay. I think that if you get the chance that you will be able to talk at least half an hour about each and every step.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes.
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 Yeah. What struck me, and we all have our chance to ask the questions, because I can believe that there's so much going on in everyone's head, mind, full. Your mind is full right now. This is, we live in a world of change.
Yes.
Really rapid change. But what you see is that people are more and more, also in the work field, looking for purpose, social engagement, sharing, caring, things like that. And we always talk about that feminine energy. Do you believe that it is more easy for women to step into that compassion?
Yes, maybe I think women by nature feel more pain than men do. Every month we have this painful, awkward moment. And we know that life is about suffering. We don't want it, but it is true, I think. So, and when you look at the circumstances many people live in, I think many women and children have the most to bear, most pain to feel. So I think maybe that makes them more empathetic, more compassionate. But pain can also make you selfish. So it's up to you if it's a bridge to another person, or it's something you have to, yes, you understand me, I think. I hope that this is an answer to your question, Ian.
Yes, well, yeah. Pain makes you selfish.
Yes, it can be. Pain can make you selfish, because we all maybe know people who dwell in their pain and can't overcome their suffering. And I know it's not easy to do, or to overcome your anger, or to overcome your fear. It takes a risk to do that, and maybe that is good. Why I think that's why women like to share in groups, because we need each other to overcome this fear, and to empower each other for another step than just staying at the pain and the suffering. So it can be, yes, it can make you selfish.
Yeah.
Because you can say, well, I have the right of people to love me, because I have so much pain. And yes, so I think we know these people.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So who has a question, please? You can raise your hand, or you can write a question in the chat box, so we can... Who? Oh, it's, I think everyone understood exactly what it was going on.
Well, I had something special. I found something in my book for Marianne. Marianne, it's just listen very well to me. It was also in the book about compassion. Marianne, this is a wisdom from Confucius. And this is also about compassion. So it's his advice to apply the ethic of the golden rule to politics. And listen well, Marianne. He says, you yourself desire rank and standing, then help others to get rank and standing. You want to turn your merits to account, then help others to turn theirs to account. We can no longer thrive at the expense of others. Do you know what I'm talking about, Marianne? Because you told me about the football coach, and she said it's when you are a good leader, you should be serving the players instead of being the boss. And I think Confucius meant this And it's also a key to a compassionate life.
Of course. I mean, you have to lift each other. And what can I do for you so you get happier? That is. But of course, there's nothing new under the sun.
No, but it's also beautiful to find out that that Confucius, one of the oldest texts of the world, describes this.
Yeah.
So, I want to share it with you. Yes. Are there more questions?
Okay.
Oh yes, I have some. When you want, I can add something. For Karen, in the press, when she was talking about compassion, the press translated it into pity.
Oh.
Into pity. But she said, no, it's not pity. Because when you have pity, I'm having pity over you. You see, it's not the same level we are on. So compassion is about this, being all together in the same place. So we don't talk about pity, but we talk about compassion.
Okay, so now we have, I'm going to have this case, this world, there's so much confusion, there is so much going on there is so much, how can we contribute? I love the word solve this problem, and I want it solved tomorrow.
Yes,
so,
I know.
Is it just, sharing this message and doing it step by step? Is it one person after the other? Is it one person at a time? Or can we just turn that, push that button and make a change?
Yeah. Well, the Chinese wise man called Xunzi, he was optimistic, and he says, every man or woman in the street can become a force for good in the world. Mm-hmm. So that's starting point. And I think, of course, when you are united, you can do something more. And when you are in a high position, you can do something in that position of the world. But you can do it also in your family life, or with your neighbor, or bring good and change your mindset. It's really not that easy. It's not that easy for yourself, and you will find out it's not easy for, let's say, world leaders. Mm-hmm. So
I think it's similar to a wave. Start small, and it can become something very big and overwhelming in a good way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's about practicing. It's hard. It's about training. Mm-hmm. So, but be hopeful. Mm-hmm. Because this Charter for Compassion is supported by really all kind of leaders of religions and philosophies and world leaders. So it is a thing, and we can work on it.
Yeah. Well, I do believe that the way we are building the female wave of change is very much based on we're not different. We have our cultural backgrounds, and we do have our education or not, or we do have, there's so many things that will make you different from one another, but we don't want to see the differences. We want to see the similarities, and we really want to make things happen together. But if you want to make that change together, you really have to be compassionate. You have to know to feel what the other feels, and very important.
But you also can celebrate the differences. So I know we try to connect, but you can also try to celebrate what is different from yourself instead of rejecting it and see it as an asset. Karen Armstrong herself had to learn this step, this 13th step. When I heard her lecture a few years after the Charter for Compassion was completed and this book was written, she corrected herself. And she said, well, I was talking about respecting one another, and it's the same way with pity. I respect you, so it's also about not being in the same level. And she tries to learn to herself and others to be really happy about the differences, because we don't like one tree, we like all the kinds of trees. So we don't want all Ingens in the world, but as well, Marianne's and Sandra's.
Yes.
Oh, lots of stuff. So I think that, and it's maybe, and it's more daring to celebrate the differences. So it asks, we should be not fearful, but hopeful.
Okay. So can you give us one last message?
Oh, I think, yes. I think we should not despair, but stay hopeful. And I think it was really good to join. You gave the opportunity to tell this story, and well, maybe it inspires us all, and try to be a little more compassionate, or just grow in compassion. So, thank you all for joining this way.
Well, thank you, Janneke. It was very inspiring. So, you said in the beginning, one of our core values is about empathy. It has to be about compassion. So please reshape it and let us know how, because I do believe empathy is just part of the bigger picture.
Yes, thank you. I will do.
Thank you, Janneke. Thank you, all the participants. Love you to be here. Please join us. Well, I told you already in our groups, one of our groups, but also, I want to remind everyone that we have this global kickoff in September 19th in the Netherlands. Janneke will be speaking, so you can hear her again, and she will almost opening the event. So it's really looking forward to hear more from you. Janneke is also one of our ambassadors. So if you have any questions, you know where to find her, and we make sure that she receives all the questions that you have. Okay, well, thank you very much. And the next online wave will be in 2 weeks' time on Thursday, and it will be on, Sandra, help me. It will be...
It will be Nienke van Bezooyen, public speaking, and she will definitely talk about femininity and masculinity in public speaking.
Yes, thank you.
We'll bring a lot of interesting things forward as well.
I think so, yes. Very interesting lady. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Janneke. And hope to see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bless you all.